Happy Friday and a massive welcome to all of you 7,594, I think now, subscribers, of course our channel members and first time viewers, to what's going to be a session packed with insights from one of our industry's leading CISOs and cloud security experts, Ashish Rajan. For those that don't know him, Ashish is the host of the wildly popular Cloud Security podcast, the CISO CyberSecurity Influencer, SANS trainer for cloud security, and an outspoken opinion leader on all things cloud security and DevSecOps. A frequent contributor on topics related to public cloud transformation, DevSecOps, AI, and the associated security challenges for practitioners and CISOs alike. But before we bring him on, a special thank you to our cloud experience sponsors, SciScale. For those that don't know SciScale seeks to solve the complexity of cloud security by automating all of the boring stuff and delivering a platform that's easy to use and takes minutes to deploy. So if you want to check them out, use that QR code. I promise to you it's safe. If not, I'll drop the link into the chat a little bit later. Okay, for those new to the channel, my name's Simon Linstead. I'm the founder of the infosec.live community, and by sharing stories and best practices over the last few months, we've had over 130,000 views here on YouTube. Thanks to all of you amazing subscribers. And for those that haven't subscribed yet, please do take a moment to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified of all of our future content. But let's not forget where all this started, and that was with the global infosec.live community, which is approaching 6,000 strong and growing fast every day, where we have study groups, mentor sessions, and regular networking events to help you raise your game in cybersecurity at whatever stage in your career. And actually, we've got a new leadership focused channel encouraging collaboration and knowledge sharing. And again, link to join that is also in the comments. And it would be remiss of me not to mention our amazing community in-person driven leadership events in both the UK and US, with 25 dates being released next week for 2024. Yes, that's right, 25 dates. We're going to have a ram-packed calendar. Check out our events page for more information. Our next events are actually in London to coincide with Black Hat on the 5th, 6th and 7th, 2 leadership events, 1 community event. If you're interested in joining either, again, reach out to me through LinkedIn or the InfoSec Live community. Special thank you to our latest channel members, Marianne Louise Nimmo and Carlos Guerrero. Your support is greatly appreciated. And of course, if you're watching this live, please do like and subscribe. We want these events to be as interactive as possible, so please make sure you drop any questions in the chat, and we will do our best to cover them all throughout, or indeed at the end of the session. You'll be pleased to know that that very long drawn out intro is now over, and it's time for the main event, which is to bring on our guest Ashish. Let's bring him on.
Hey,
welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I mean, we've spoken a couple of times now, not on a live stream. Couldn't believe that we hadn't bumped into each other before over the last 2 or 3 years, and can't believe it's taken this long to get you on my channel. So thank you for taking the time to come on.
Not a problem. I think that I find it funny that people who are locally here in the UK and content creators, it takes a long time to get to collaborate together. So I'm glad we got to it finally, though.
I don't know about you, but I've ended up doing more collaboration with the US market than I have the UK market. Maybe we need to change that, Ashish, a little bit.
This could be the beginning of it. This could totally be the beginning of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, before we dig in, people have already dropped questions in the chat. I've given a little bit of background. Can you just tell our audience a bit about yourself before we dig in?
Yeah, sure. So hey everyone, my name is Ashish. For folks who have not known me before, I have been in the cybersecurity space for a little over 12 years and done various roles. Started in identity access management, did security architecture, cloud security, and my last role before I became full-time, I guess, creative agency person, I guess, for lack of a better word. I was a CISO for a tech company. We were a global tech company. We had offices in Australia, UK, US, and Europe as well, and we worked in multi-cloud. I'm fortunate enough that during the pandemic, I started a podcast called Cloud Security Podcast, which kind of blew up. I think we did 1.5 million downloads recently, which like a
Wow.
couple of days ago. So it's definitely been a long 4-year journey, but short for some people, but it definitely feels like a long one. And yeah, so primarily I'm known for the cloud security podcast that I run. So a lot more opinion about cloud security. In fact, if you're based in the UK, yesterday we were speaking at OWASP London meetup as well, which is a great community as well. There's a Cloud Security London. So you find me in communities talking about, just like infosec.live is another one. You definitely find me talking communities about cloud security or the CISO speed or online about it as well. But that's a short intro.
I love it. I want to dig back in. What made you transition from being a CISO to a full-time creator? And the second question to follow on from that, which did you enjoy more?
I definitely feel I enjoyed this part more. No, and so I was creating content while I was a CISO as well. But the difference was I didn't have a direction at that point in time. And I guess the time was very limited because if you kind of think about pre-COVID life, it was primarily around the whole, everyone's going to the work. You have your, I don't know, 4 hours of your life just spent traveling in the car. There's no one recording a podcast in the car unless like became a thing later on. So I only feel one of the reasons why probably I switched over to the full-time creative agency part, being a content creator, was only because of COVID. Like I had the extra 4 hours in my life and I was just basically back home. You work out for 1 hour, you still have 3 more hours to kill. You're like, okay, what else do I do? I make dinner, 1 more hour, like what else do I do? So I started doing coffee catch-ups with folks around the world who I had known in cybersecurity space for a while. Funny enough, Cloud Security Podcast, I think started off by, the name was Virtual Coffee with Ashish, because I used to make coffee at home and I'll have my morning coffee with someone across the globe or someone in Australia at that time. And it kind of grew. Initially, it was just friends because people were reaching out for, hey, how do you keep up with cloud security? Because I was creating content before as well. And started doing that for some time. And soon friends ran out. I started asking friends of friends. And then it became like, oh, I know someone in Netflix. Oh, know someone in Robinhood. So it kind of took off from there. And here we are 4 years later. We've been full-time for the past 1 year. And I wouldn't say it's easy. And it's definitely a lot different to a CISO job, where a lot of responsibility is to work with other people and convince the board and other folks to why they should give me budget. Why do I need another person in this team to kind of grow that team and grow that practice or grow that capability, or how we're doing from a security posture perspective. Now, thanks to content creation, I do get to do a lot of advisory. So now I do that at scale that I could not do before. So I think on average, I am at least on 3 or 4 advisory calls every month, talking to companies that are around the world. I think FTSE 100 companies or the equivalent in the US. That would not be possible. So that makes me feel that, it is definitely better to be a content creator. So you get a lot more.
I think you've managed to reach a wider audience with your thought leadership message, right? I think that's what it is. And I saw a comment, funnily enough, on LinkedIn yesterday. Someone had put a bit of a snarky post. You know what some people are like.
Yeah.
Saying you can't be a full-time CISO and a thought leader attending all these conferences and speaking all these things. And there is. I mean, I think you can. I don't agree with the post, but I think you get more coverage and get your message out to more people doing what you're doing than being the CISO for 1 or 2 or maybe 3 organizations at a time.
Yeah, 100%. I think also the fact that I probably would say it kind of to what you said. I kind of agree. Like some people have a lot of responsibilities at home, and like it just almost like when you switch off your 5 o'clock, there's a lot happening at home that you want to get onto. So last thing you want to think about is I'm going to go to a conference. You take care of the kids, to your partner, whatever. So I can totally understand that aspect of it. And maybe that's one of the reasons why people like yourself and I, who are providing value, and others as well in the content creation space, specifically for cybersecurity, maybe we could be that gap for thought leadership for CISOs rather than them trying to go and attend conferences. We can
Yeah.
host conferences, we can go to attend conferences and be that bridge for them to bring them value. I definitely feel
I think you can, because you bring technical knowledge and experience with you. I think what we've done, I can't accept that compliment, right? Because what we've done here is we've given a platform for leaders who maybe haven't got the time to travel halfway across the US to go to a conference, to actually have a platform and come and speak. And I think that's why I've seen so much success. Yours is more around the amazing educational and informative content you provide,
I appreciate that.
Ashish.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, I would
Do
take the
you,
technical content back, but I mean, but to your point, bringing together people is a hard job as well. You can't.
yeah.
I think the number of times you would ask someone to come and present at a meetup or come and share, hey, what did you learn last month? All of us learn something at our workplaces, but how many can share? Obviously, you don't want to share like secret information, but you can definitely abstract information to the point that, oh, I learned this new technology. This is what I learned with the limitations, but not many people do that. So
No.
that's where I feel like you're still doing an important part, man. I
Thank you.
won't discredit
I,
you.
I appreciate that. Before we move on to my very loose agenda that I've got written down here, there are three questions I think that have come up. So do you mind if I just bring them up first? I'm
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to
go for
lift, don't panic. You're now going to move to the top of the screen so your body doesn't get cut in half. There we
it.
go. Let's go for the first one. It's Prashant. Have you been in an environment where cloud implementation was I think he means mistake, although we do like steak here, don't we?
I would say yes. So, for example, well, and this is obviously not recently. This is, I would probably say, so I've been in the cloud security space specifically for the past 8 years. And I mean, obviously, cloud itself has only been there for 13. So, a
Yeah.
still fair amount of time has been spent on it. But what I found was that the initial messaging behind cloud used to be around the fact that we would help you save cost, we would help you give resources really quickly. It was a bad decision for companies that were in certain industries. Like, for example, the idea of cost saving from your data center doesn't really apply when you own the data center.
Yeah.
And imagine telling that to someone who's an energy provider that, hey, by the way, we'll save your electricity bill for your data center. They're like, well, we kind of run the electricity, so we own that stuff. We don't have to really do this. So at that point in time, the true value of cloud is only limited to the fact that I can give you quick resources, but these days, if you go to any modern data center, most of them do the same thing as well. That's why private cloud got really popular. I'm specifically referring to public cloud, but in certain sectors, you would find that, I think, in fact, I was reading a couple of days ago, Twitter moved off cloud as well
Yeah.
and saved a lot of money. So there's definitely implementation all around where you see from a technology perspective, especially if the migration has not been done well, cloud can be super expensive and just kind of we just want to
And
go back to
do
that
you
point.
find then when you engage and you consult with these clients, are they sometimes paying for far too many instances and far too many products? Yeah.
I think inventory or having visibility into what you have in the cloud in the first place, it is still super hard and
Yeah.
it hasn't changed. Like the more consumption of cloud increasing just meant that now more people are unaware of what's really running. So I think that's where one month someone gets a bill of $100,000 and like, oh my god, what are we running here? Like what? And then they go into this expedition of finding out who owns it. Then you find out, oh, I don't even know who the owner for this application is. He just left the company last month. And we're paying 110,000 K for this. So like, so what does that really mean for you? So yes, but also at the same time, some people are just big enough that they can afford it. They don't really have to worry about I guess I'm thinking about the really large enterprises.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously in normal times, right now, it's budgets are tight everywhere, but in normal times, not many people really care.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Do you see some businesses moving away from the cloud?
I think I've heard of a few. Reasons have been varied. Reasons have primarily been driven by the cost rather than
Yeah.
it lacks features. So I think I probably would put the same context as 7 years ago when people were trying to move into cloud. That was novelty. That was the whole software defined network. I
Yeah.
can get the server in 5 seconds. That was super new. These days, most of the private cloud providers are also on that same path as well. So you as a consumer really have to make a call if you're moving out of data center. Should you just move into another one because you already have the knowledge, the expertise for it? or would you want to move to a completely new space just because it might give you that 5% extra? So I'm not saying any of them are bad. I'm just saying that based on the industry and based on what your use case is, you might just find sometimes cloud is not the best answer, or maybe
I think it's very industry dependent, isn't it? And how
Yeah,
your
yeah.
business faces. Yeah. Okay. Next question then, if you don't mind. This is from Open Mat Site, which is new into incident response. Any tips, tricks, sites specifically for AWS as an incident responder? Not a responser.
Responder.
It's been a long week. It's been a long week.
Instant responser. So if open mat site is an open response identity, like there you go, me going as well. I was gonna say there is an official guide from AWS, instant response guide. That is definitely a great material. But what usually some of these guides don't talk about is they don't talk about the nuance of the application that you're trying to investigate. Now, if it's okay, I'm gonna give a plug to my Cloud Security Podcast YouTube channel as well.
Of course, yeah. Have you got a link? Have you got a link for that? We can drop in the chat as well.
I'll share one over here. I think what we found is, or actually what you would find, I guess the person who's watching this, what you would find is that you would find that a lot of topics which are around incident response. Otherwise, maybe I'll just put it in the private chat so you can just post it there. There you go.
Yeah, perfect.
So essentially, if you go on the YouTube channel for us on Cloud Security Podcast and search for incident response, there are multiple episodes that we've done over there. We have coverage across Azure, AWS, GCP, I think, from memory. But if you don't find anything, definitely feel free to reach out. I think I would say one of the reasons why Cloud Security Podcast has stood the test of time, for lack of a better word, is because we are the only unbiased information that is being brought about cloud security in the industry. If you go to AWS, they would just tell you, hey, this is how you use AWS. Yeah, they won't tell you like, hey, you can actually use non-AWS things as well if you want. So to bring that conversation in is kind of where Cloud Security Podcast kind of made its name.
No, absolutely. Are you okay if I share your LinkedIn profile link?
Yeah, that's right.
As well, if people want to connect. Yeah,
it's
your link. So a couple of links dropped. Well, 3 links dropped in there. One of them is to the very biased AWS document about incident response Ashish was just mentioning. The next one is his YouTube channel. Please do check this out. It's in the chat right here, and underneath that is his LinkedIn profile. I hope Open Mat Site that helped answer your question. It looks like it did. Last question from the audience. Please get some more coming in. I have got some questions of my own that I want to ask, but I'd rather ask yours. So please, if you have got one, do drop it in. Next one is from Suri. Good to see you, Suri. Suri, bit of background, has just enabled my Siri, actually, which has just come up on my phone from saying that. Let me get it up. There we go. Brilliant. So she has just finished her master's at the University of East Anglia, which is in Norfolk, right near where I live. And her question is, how did you end up becoming a cloud expert?
I would say, well, I guess maybe my personal experience over here is, I can maybe answer in 2 ways. So I can share my personal experience, and I imagine Suri is trying to get into cloud as well. So I'll probably talk from a more general perspective as well. My personal journey, because I've been in the space for about 13 years, and I think 7-8 years ago, AWS. So for some people who might enjoy stats and facts, outside of US, the largest consumption of AWS happens in Australia. Not even in Europe, anywhere else. It just actually still happens in Australia. So I was one of the first few people, I guess, globally who got access to work on AWS. I was working for a startup at that point in time, and we were transitioning from the fact that, hey, this thing, cloud is coming. We needed to be able to bring some practice around this. So being a security person, I took the responsibility of being in charge of what would cloud security look like and all of that. And as you kind of deep dived into it, primarily it started off with AWS. Did that for 6 years, 7 years. That's when Azure, GCP started getting popular as well. But all throughout, because I was already experienced in cybersecurity, so the transition for me was more around, oh, this is how I do cybersecurity in a data center.
Yeah.
This is how I protect an application. The only thing you're changing when you move to the cloud, and I'm obviously oversimplifying it apart from the nuance of it, but the concepts and what you're trying to do from a cybersecurity perspective does not really change in the cloud context. So as long as you understand, I think the way to explain it is, if you're based in the UK, clearly, you're driving on the right-hand side, I think, left-hand side, whichever the side is. Yeah, I'm not sure what side do we drive here. So because it's the same in Australia. But imagine if you're right inside over here. But if you go to Italy or anywhere in Europe, it's the opposite. It's the same in cloud as well. If you have done some kind of IT experience or some kind of engineering experience that you have in IT that has been applied for data center, you would find that the same concept also apply in the cloud context as well. We still use networks, we still use identity, we still use what do you have storage, what's your server like. The difference seems to be more in the context of, oh, now I just have to drive on the opposite side. So what are the rules of the game over here? Okay, so I have to send a request to get a server, which I get in 5 minutes. Or what else do I do for my identity? So I think if you approach it like that, you would find you already know a lot more than you might think. And by that example, quote unquote, you could be I guess, an expert from that perspective. In general, what I tell people, that was my personal experience, but in general, what I tell people is that if you have never done IT before, I would probably work on the IT skills first, because as I mentioned, you're building on something. It's not that cloud has created something completely different. It's basically the same concept. Now you just basically a lot more abstraction is there compared to what was earlier. So if you have not done IT before, I'll probably start there, some CompTIA Plus or other certifications that are there, and then move on to the cloud space. I would recommend starting with AWS, not because AWS is, I guess, the only cloud that's popular. AWS still has the largest share for cloud infrastructure usage thing that you want to call it. So the likelihood, assuming you want a job at the end of this, after you learn all of this cloud, AWS would increase the probability because a lot more people would already be on AWS. So the likelihood of you finding a job would be a lot easier if you already know AWS and you have a portfolio of practical projects, even the free ones, that you can show from a portfolio perspective that you've worked on these on AWS. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, it was helpful, I think, for everyone. And I think it may have answered this question as well, which is the easiest way to be a cloud security engineer and one of the best. I mean, for me, I'm not a techie, but the one thing I've learned after trying to come in as a techie and going down that CompTIA route is that unless you've got those fundamentals first, it's a very difficult thing to jump straight into it. And that isn't a gatekeeping comment, it's just fact.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to have some of those underlying fundamentals. For those
Yeah.
that haven't heard of KevTech IT, Kev Tech is based in New York, and he hosts a YouTube channel that teaches you for free all of those fundamentals, and basically helps people get jobs in help desk, which can then be that stepping stone up to the next point in the career. So it's all about collaboration and sharing links. So there's another YouTube there for you. If you want to look at IT fundamentals, check that one out, please. Let's go back to your YouTube channel for a bit then. I'm going to drop that link back in the chat because it keeps moving up quite quickly and people can miss it. Talk to me about what topics you cover. I know it's cloud security, but talk to me in more detail about what you do on the channel.
Sure. So on Cloud Security Podcast, I mean, feel free to bring it up as well on the screen if you like. But the I would say we are proud. We pride ourselves in bringing real interviews with cloud security experts from around the world, which include companies like Netflix, your Robinhood, Capital One. Think of one big company, or in the US. Unfortunately, not many from the UK yet, but I'm hoping to change that. I think we have Trustpilot and a few other companies that came on the podcast from the UK. But some of the movers and shakers who are trailblazers of the cloud security space, who are promoted by AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, as, hey, these companies are something to be looked out for. We've had a lot of those practitioners, directors, VPs, CISOs from LinkedIn have come in as well. So primarily, we are trying to bring honest feedback about solving real life cloud security problems so that people can do their cloud security role better. And of recently, we have started putting training videos as well. We run something called Cloud Security Bootcamp, which is a free bootcamp for folks at the end of the month where they can attend and learn something about it as well.
Yeah.
The idea being you don't have to go far to know or learn about cloud security. That's the training part. It's free videos out there as well. We do AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Terraform, Kubernetes, anything which is cloud and cloud native in an educational fun way is kind of what our aim is. I feel I'm getting older with YouTube, so I create videos that are very YouTube-like as well, so which is why you see on the screen. And the idea is to bring thought leadership as well as to, like, for example, what you should look out for 2024 is something that you're working on at the moment. And there's an AWS conference in a couple of weeks, which would give us some more insight on what they think the world is going to go to as well. So all that and a lot more. But essentially, if you're thinking about doing your job better in cloud security, and you just want some insights from a fellow colleague who just happens to work on a more complex problem, you could find us on all audio platforms and also on YouTube as well.
Love it. And do you mind if I just play your trailer quickly? 'Cause it's
Yeah,
really
sure.
good. Right. Let me see if this works. If I go full, is that gone full screen now? Because I'm not looking at our screen.
Yeah, it has
It
gone.
has. Right. Here we go. Can you hear it? Yeah.
Welcome to Cloud Security Podcast, where we talk about all things cloud security.
Why cloud security?
Well, everything is moving to the cloud and we are only 20% in.
Why does that matter?
Well, with more things in cloud,
Cloud.
not that cloud, we need to do and learn more cloud security in public cloud like AWS, Azure, GCP, and more.
And we help with that?
Yes, we do, and a whole lot more.
Hold up. Let's try this again. Welcome to Cloud Security Podcast, where every week we talk to industry leaders, practitioners, and CISOs from all over the world on how they solve cloud security challenges in their world. If you are starting your journey today, or if you are an experienced professional, welcome.
In this YouTube channel, you will find our interview episodes along with our specially curated Cloud Security Originals, our original series about topics that you wanted to hear more about, and leadership insights.
You will also learn how and where to find cloud security villains, and of course, how to fight them. We also have Cloud Security Architecture series, where we talk with experts on how they can solve real-life challenges so you can become from zero to a cloud security professional after you learn the cloud security fundamentals.
We're about to go live, so you better head off.
Oh, shucks.
If you are on this channel for the second or the third time, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our socials so you know when the next episode drops.
You should also check out our sister podcast, Cloud Security News, if you're not someone who's interested in scouring the internet for what's latest on cloud security. I hope you enjoy the content we have created for you on Cloud Security Podcast. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
And we're going live in 3.
Thank you for sharing that.
That is, it's still playing in the background, clearly. Let me turn that off. That is one of the best intros I've ever seen. That was awesome.
I appreciate
Really
that. Thank
good.
you. It
Did,
took only 8 hours to shoot that.
Is that how long? I was thinking of asking you, how long did
It
that
took 8
take? Did you have help, or did you do it on your own?
No. There was definitely a lot of help, and the person who came was a bit of a perfectionist in a good way. So every time we would say something like, "You could do slightly better," I'm like, oh, "Okay." Anyway, spent 8 hours doing it. Unfortunately, it was raining that day as well, so kind of the cloud joke really kicked in.
You were looking very smart, though. I can tell you
Appreciate
that.
that.
Yeah,
Appreciate
very
that.
smart.
Thank
Okay,
you.
let's get back to these questions because there's so many in the chat today. I love this question, so I'm going to have to show this one. It's very relevant to my plans or our plans at InfoSec for next year. What would be your perfect conference and why? Thank you, Ben. That's awesome.
Thanks for the question, Ben. I would say a conference which provides value both to the builders as well as leaders. I think that would be a good one. So primarily, if you're going to zoom out of the space that we all work in, whether it's IT or cybersecurity, you would find that it's primarily people who are either building application or people who are leading a change in an application. Yeah. And both personas very different. And unfortunately, there is no single conference that is able to hit both the marks. And not because they're not trying. They have great talks, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I think the place where it kind of usually fails is in engaging these people enough. And I guess nowadays, it's a lot more harder to engage with people because, I mean, you and I both in the YouTube world, there is a lot more engagement over there. How do you bring that to a conference world? There's so much complexity around how you can make it really engaging where people feel, oh, I'm walking away from that. When I would be hosting a CISO dinner, it's a lot easier in a smaller, intimate group. Yeah. But if it's hundreds of people, I mean, I don't know how they do Super Bowl, but you're almost doing Super Bowl style stuff to kind of keep people engaged.
I mean, for me, it's, I think, more hands-on stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that for builders, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think if you could have, lots of different areas broken up, so there's lots of different things for different people to engage with, and even from the leadership perspective, of course, talks about cybersecurity, but what about talks about agile? What about talks about dealing with the management team? I don't know. I think we've got this big push towards strategic security in the industry as a whole, which is what you hear everywhere. But you go to a conference and it's just scan your badge and sell you a tool. Or am I being really cynical?
No. Well, you're not being cynical. I think some of the conferences, unfortunately, have been like that as well. So, which obviously I stopped going to after because I'm like, there's no point. You're just basically going in, and sometimes
Free
it's
t-shirts is the point, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, t-shirts and socks basically that definitely helps. Yeah, or I guess adapters if you're traveling from a different country, adapters are a good one as well.
Yeah.
So people normally walk around with bags of gym gear for themselves, for lack of a better word. But I mean, definitely, I would say it's not an easy thing for conference with over 100 people attending. But I definitely feel there's a need for it as well to be changed or disrupted.
Yeah. That's the answer I think Ben was wanting to hear, and definitely the answer I wanted to hear as well. So I'll be honest now, Ben is a bit of a stooge in the audience. Welcome, Ben, a new director at
Welcome,
infosec.live, helping me take things to the next level next year. So yeah,
No pressure, Ben.
thanks for that. Yeah, no pressure. Thanks for that setup question there. I can't remember what your name was. I'm now going to call you the wrong name again then. Let me just scroll back through and get this right. Evelio, there we go. Evelio said, I just came back from a SANS class and I had some people that jumped directly to cyber, and they admitted they're having such a hard time understanding a lot of things because they don't have the basics. And I think SANS are one of the better ones when it comes to how they market their material, but the industry as a whole is full of shysters and snake oil salesmen when it comes to boot camps and telling you can break in.
Yeah.
There are enough channels like Ashish's, like KevTex for the basic stuff, Jerry Oja. There's so many channels out there where you can learn stuff for free, in my opinion, before you should even start looking at paying out for certifications. But again,
I think another place where I feel the industry lacks a bit more structure is the fact that we as an industry believe that getting a certification would help us get a job.
Yeah.
And that is probably not the right way. It definitely helps you get to the interview, but at the interview, they're not going to ask you questions about certification. They're going to ask you a question about how would you do something,
applying that knowledge.
Yeah, that's right. Like, how would you apply this? The same thing that happens in universities and schools and stuff. We just not expected that because you answered the question in an exam, you basically are a genius. You just basically need to know how to apply that.
And also, there's lots of people out there, and I'm not one of these, who's really good at passing exams, but it doesn't mean that you can then retain and apply that knowledge to anything particularly useful. And I think I'm going to get on my soapbox now. The education system we've got globally was basically made for the Industrial Revolution, where we needed to produce a load of workers, right?
Yeah.
We're now, how many years afterwards, we're still pushing people through this outdated education model. And for me, and I am biased because my 18-year-old landed an apprenticeship role with Aviva. I think it's 2 months he's been there now. But that for me is the real route in for people to this industry, is apprenticeships. And I hope to see more of those flourishing over the years.
100%. I think you definitely need an avenue for people to get in and at least get an exposure. Or, I mean, I guess I would even say going to meetups and conferences as young people is also a great idea.
100%,
because I think I've met
just for the t-shirts and socks.
Just for t-shirts and socks, so at least save your parents some money. But it's more around the fact that when you go there and when you meet people who are younger than you, like, I mean, I'm about to hit 40, and I'm like, when I go to these conferences, I meet someone who's 20-year-old, 18-year-old. I'm going, wow, you're coming to a conference as an 18-year-old. Just because of the fact they met me, they meet you, they talk to so many people, like, what's the reality of the space and what can I learn, what can I do? Getting, like, they see leveraging someone's 20-year experience in a matter of a few minutes, that was not possible when I was trying to get into the space. No meetups, conferences overseas, like, oh, who's going to spend money to go to the US? It's too expensive. And now, I mean, you can just go to our YouTube channel, or there's so many others that you mentioned as well, and the information is freely available. So I'm super excited for people who are trying to get into IT.
But it is, you're absolutely right. That's that face-to-face contact. I don't care what anyone says. It's marvelous that we all work from home, but it's super important, in my opinion.
100%. Because
maybe that's because I'm 50 next year, but I don't know.
No, I mean, but to your point, I would also say when you're put into a real-life situation, and imagine no job is not stressful, how would you respond if you can't even talk to the person or connect with the person? You just can't be, hey, this is how my technical qualifications are. Either it's my way or highway. That's not how industry works.
No, absolutely not. Thank you, Ashish. I hope that's answered the question. 2 more questions to go, and I think I'm not going to get time to ask you my questions, so hopefully I can get you back on again at some time to
No
answer those.
problem.
Marianne, great to see you. She says, or they say, sorry, I know different folks recommend different qualifications, but I'm experienced with AWS and I've been offered funding for the Solutions Architect exam. Is this a useful qualification?
I would say if it's a solution architect professional or associate, I would say if you're going for the associate one, most people usually go for that because they're looking to get and because you already have experience with AWS, I'm assuming you've built some projects in it, you would not, unless you're looking for a new job, you probably would not find it valuable. You just basically, it's a great validation
Well,
to what
I
you
know
want.
that they are looking for a new job. So would it,
Oh, right.
would it
Okay.
help
So
in
if
that
they're looking for a
respect?
new job, then definitely, then I would recommend going for a AWS Solution Architect, or if AWS Solution Architect Associate. What that would allow you to do is, at least when people have minimum requirements for, have you got a certification, you go through that front door of HR to the next round, and especially if you have experience in AWS already, which you can talk about in your resume, that would take you a long way. But I would definitely say associate, if you have the professional one, that has a lot more value. And the only reason I called out the professional one is because you said you have experience. But if you don't have experience in AWS, or at least not enough that you feel confident, I would just stick with AWS Cloud Security Architect Associate exam.
Associate. Okay, I think I've got the link for that. I'm not sure if it is. Hopefully that's the right one that I'm dropping in there now.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Certified Solution Architect. Yeah.
Excellent. I hope that helped, Marianne. Good question here from Pilot Sharma. As a leader, what can you do to avoid the burnout of your team? I would say, and yourself as well, perhaps.
Yeah. I think probably answer goes. I think you kind of mentioned this just before. I would probably say, as a leader, the hardest part, a connection with the team that you have, being on, for quote unquote, being aware when they are burning out, or being aware that, hey, I have done this in the past. We have way more workload than what we have ever had. I haven't been able to get enough budget to give someone even a little bit of room to breathe. Having that self-awareness of what your team is going through, I think that would definitely be number one. And I personally struggled with it as well, because it's hard for people to share to their boss that, hey, by the way, this is too much. As much as we would watch television and people would just like, oh, I'm burning out, and they would say it, the reality is far from it. People wait till the last moment for it. And I would say, as a leader, it's your responsibility to keep a pulse on, is it really that big? Like when you're catching up with your team members, does the workload feel too much? Is there anything that needs to be done? It's a question that I've been asking a lot. Now, the other part of, as a leader, you yourself should be keeping yourself on check. That is even harder, because you spend so much time. And if you think about it, on a normal day, most people who are probably reporting to a manager, they just think about their workload. They come back home, they think about family and everything else. You have to think about multiple people and your family. So you're already, like, from a scale perspective, you have 5 people in the office, probably 5 people at home, 10 people overall. So it's kind of hard to be, I guess, keeping a check on that. So I personally don't have a great answer for it, because I think as I switched over from being a CISO to a cloud security content creator, what we have decided as a family is that we are not going to work in December. So AWS reInvent happens every December, no matter what happens. So for the past 4 years, we have not worked across a December period after reInvent gets over. And we only start after the first week of January. Like normal holidays that people take, we are definitely trying to do that as well. I wouldn't say I've been perfect and not opened up my laptop, but I definitely I'm still trying. So I'm not perfect, but I'm definitely, that's one way.
It's about being strict with yourself, isn't it? And making sure you stick to that time that you're allocating for non-work stuff. And I think as a leader, or if you work for yourself, it's very, very difficult to find that balance. And I'd argue that no one ever has that balance absolutely right. But as long as you are aware of the fact that you need to maintain that balance, for me, that's probably enough, right?
Yeah. Well, hopefully that helped Pilot Sharma. I think it's Rajiv, his name, because I think he's from Cloud Security Podcast as well. But I think, thanks for the question, man.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much. Well, we're pretty much out of time. We've done the 45 minutes. Ashish, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey, and also some insights for our audience today. I'm going to drop in your YouTube channel again here at the bottom, just to make sure that everyone gets a chance to click on that. Do check out Ashish's channel. It is full of informative and educational and entertaining, as you see from the intro content. I'm looking forward to having you on here again. And when I learn something about cloud security, you can invite me on yours.
Well, for sure, I would appreciate. Well, let's book a time for it and make it happen as well.
Let's do it. And I think for next year, let's see how we can collaborate. Let's see how we can help each other, because that's really what this community as a whole is very, very good at, isn't it?
I mean, I can already see that as well. So I look forward to catching up with you soon, man.
Thank you very much. Have an amazing weekend, everyone. You too, Ashish. Enjoy whatever you're doing. See you all next week.
See you guys. See you.